Okay, so in this video, we're going to work on the online quiz. Alright, so let's say we have some questions here. Okay, so we put that there, put that here, and there. Then if we press the grade this test button, then we know that we got the answer wrong for number 1. So it tells us incorrect, and it gives us the right answer. This one was correct, so we get marked OK. And then this one was incorrect as well. And then we get a grade, 1 out of 3. So we only got 1 right. So let's say we go back and fix it. Grade test. Okay, so now they're all correct, and we get a score of 3 out of 3. Here we have a drop-down list. This is what we're looking at. Here's chapter 1. Let's say I go to chapter 2. Now we have a different test here, and it's just simply asking us to select our favorite flavors of ice cream. So I'm going to check vanilla, generate response. It says I like vanilla, but let's say I also like chocolate, so then I'm going to select that one. Then I'm going to generate another response, and then finally like this. Or if I take one out, generate response. And then chapter 3, of course, that was your homework assignment, is to create your own quiz of 5 questions. Okay, so let's get started on how to build this. Okay, so create a new website. Call it online quiz. Mine's called online quiz 3 because this is the 3rd time that I've created this a similar quiz. So I have multiple files, but for you, just call it online quiz. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is create the master page. A master page would contain this header here, and then the drop-down list with the different links to the different pages. Right? You notice how I'm going to, let's say, chapter 1, and it says default.aspx. I go to chapter 2, then the page changes to chapter 2.aspx. Even though this portion here changes, the header doesn't. Right? So we can use a master page to contain that, so that way we only have to build it once. We don't have to repeat the same code on each page. We can reuse it. All right, this is chapter 3. I just have this here, but the master page portion is going to be the same one, right? It's repeating, in other words. So we're trying to reuse some of the content. Okay, so to add a master page, let's go ahead and right click here, go to add new item, and then look for master page, and we'll leave the default name, and then hit OK, add. Right, and if we look at the code for the master page, right, we have, it looks very similar to what we've done already. The only difference is this here, the placeholder. Right, this placeholder, when we create new pages that contain the contents of the master page, that code or those web pages will appear here in the placeholder, and then this portion, the head, the top part here, this, everything else will repeat itself. So it'll make a little bit more sense once we actually use it. Right? So for now, let's just build a master page like the way we would build a normal web page, and then you'll see how it works. Okay, so let's create the style sheet, and that style sheet, we're going to put a link reference to it in the head, and if we reuse the master page on subsequent pages, then that CSS will apply to all our pages. All right, so let's just go ahead and add new item, or we can just go, well, we can do add new item, and then we'll do style sheet. Either way works. And then try to leave the default name, so that way in case we need to reference it or look for it, we know what to type. Right, so just leave it as style sheet, and we're only going to have one. Okay, so let's say you're working on this at home and you want to see how the page was built based on the example from the home page, the class home page. Right, so we can, even though we don't see the URL here directly, if we know the name of the style sheet, then we can view it in the browser. Right, so we can do style sheet.css, press enter. Okay, so we can see the CSS here online, and well, normally I would expect you to type this out, practice your CSS, that way you get pretty good with it. But of course, just by looking at a web page, it is difficult to know exactly what CSS has been applied. Right, so the best thing to do is just to look at the style sheet online, go ahead and select it, copy it, and then just go ahead and overwrite what's here. Right, so now we have all the CSS set up, and then here, anything with the little dots, these are the classes. We don't have any IDs, so anything that's a class that has a dot is something we're going to reuse quite a bit. And then the header and footer already have some sort of styling to them. Okay, so go ahead and save this. Let's go back to our master page, and then here in the head, the title of course can be online quiz, and then right below the title, click on the icon and put a link reference to our style sheet. Right, this head is going to be repeated each time we create a page and we apply the master page. The style sheet will be already connected to it, but each page could have its own head and it could have its own style sheets, its own content, and that would go here, and that would not be copied over to different pages. Okay, so now let's switch over. Well, before we switch over, let's go ahead and create the header. So we'll do that in the body. We'll do it before the placeholder, because that'll be the body of our document. So then from here we'll do header tag. We'll put that there. Okay, so now that we have the header, let's go ahead and look at it in the design mode. So click on design, right, and then here's our header, right, and automatically already set up with the styling from the CSS. So then let's go ahead and place a label here, and let's place a drop-down list. Put that there. Now this is very important. Do not forget this. Otherwise we can't use the drop-down list to switch to different pages. Make sure you enable auto post back. So make sure that's checked. Now let's add, for the drop-down list, let's add our items. So we'll go here, and then we're going to add a blank, or we're going to add 4 different items. So just add 1, 2, 3, right, 0, 1, 2, 3. This one will be blank. We won't have any text in it. For number 1 though, we will call it the text that's going to appear is going to be chapter 1. Chapter 1. And then the value is chapter 1. Here we'll do chapter 2. And this will also be chapter 2. And then here, chapter 3. And then the value will be chapter 3. And then we'll do OK. And then let's modify our label. We can modify it in the text property here. Here we will call it, we'll put please select a chapter. And then a colon and space. Okay, and since the drop-down list, we're going to use it to program code to transfer to different pages. Let's go ahead and name the drop-down list. We can call it something like DDL chapters. And we notice here that the font is a certain size. I believe it's 14 point. But here our drop-down list is kind of small here. But we have a style or class, right, called list for the drop-down list. Maybe a better name would have been drop-down list, but list is okay. We can apply that class to our control. So just go here, and then our different classes will show up. Right, so we have a class for buttons, we have a class for lists, and we have a class for questions. So we want the list class. And then automatically you can see that the size changed to accommodate the larger font. Okay, we can preview it. If you see this message, just hit OK. Okay, so if you try to preview a master page, you're going to see this. This means that the master page is not necessarily a web page on its own. The master page has to be part of a real web page, right? So if you see this message while you're working on your master page, don't be alarmed. It's part of it's normal, right? So you have to finish the master page, apply that master page to a web page, and then you can preview it, not before. Okay, so it's good that I made this mistake. That way you can see how it works, and that way when you see it, you won't be alarmed by it. Okay, so let's continue working. Okay, so cancel the debugging. Hit stop. Okay, so then now let's program our drop-down list. All you gotta do is double click on it, and that will create an event handler for index changed. Right, so if you remember on the drop-down list, when we edit the items, this 0, 1, 2, 3, that's the index. Right, so the current index is 0, that's where it starts. Let's say I choose chapter 2, then the index would have been changed to 2, or if I change it to 3, it would be changed to 3. Right, so we need an if-else statement to control what's going to happen when we select a certain index. So I'll put that there. Maybe minimize this a little bit. Okay, so then let's do the code for the index change. Okay, so here's the code for the index change. Right, we're going to skip index 0, which is the blank in the drop-down list. Then if the chapter's index changes to 1, then we're going to go to default asp.x. That's going to be chapter 1, right? We haven't created those pages yet, but we will. If they change it to 2, then we're going to redirect to chapter 2, or else if they change it to 3, then we're going to redirect to chapter 3 ASPX. Right, so depending on which one the user selects, right, this is what this code does here. It's going to take you there. And then this little dot here, so that way we don't have to type the whole URL. You can put the dot, and that will tell this method here to redirect this into the folder and choose this page, right? But we don't have these pages set up, so I think we're going to be ready to create our pages. All right, so let's create the 3 pages: default, chapter 2, and chapter 3. So I'm going to go here where it says online quiz. I'm going to right click, I'm going to add new item, and then look for web form. So click here. We'll leave the first one as default.aspx. That'll be for chapter 1. Now the very important thing is, before you add the page, you need to press select master page. So click here, put the check mark, hit add, and then you get this dialog box. It's going to ask us which master page we want to use. We want to use the one we created. That's the only one showing up. So then hit OK. So then now this is what our web page looks like. Right, this is the content placeholder for the head, and then this is the content placeholder for the body of our document. Right, so anything we type here will be just part of default.aspx and not part of the master page. Okay, now let's create the other 2 pages. So then let's go to add new item, web form, and we're going to call this one chapter 2. Chapter 2. Make sure the select master page is checked. Hit add and hit OK. So now we have a chapter 2 master page. I'm sorry, chapter 2 web page. And then we're going to add new item, and then we'll do chapter 3. And hit add, hit OK. Okay, so then before we start coding the pages, for each of our web pages, here, did I forget the 3? I did. Okay, that's okay, not a problem. Just right click, rename, and then put 3 here. Okay, so we fixed it. Very important change you need to make regarding the master page. Here, this little squiggly line, when we upload this to the server doesn't really know what to do with this squiggly line, so just change it to a dot. So we'll do it on that one, and then make sure you save that. Go to the chapter 2 page, also do that, change that to a dot, save, and then here change this also. Yeah, that'll save us a little bit of headaches once we upload everything. Okay, so now let's start working on our page for the first one, for chapter 1. Chapter 1 consists of 3 questions, right? If we look at the example, each of those questions is going to be in its own div. So just do div, do 3 of them. Oops. Copy, paste, paste. Alright, so we're going to have 3 divs. And each of these divs has a CSS class. So that's going to be class equals question, right? And then just make sure you apply this class to all your divs. Right. Okay. Now each of the questions are going to be in a span tag. Then we'll put a break. And then here in this section we'll put the radio buttons. So we'll make some space for them. Okay, so let's put the first question. We'll do 1. What is Darth Vader's real name? Okay, and then we'll do question 2. How old is Yoda? Master Yoda, sorry. Master Yoda. And question 3. Where was the deflector shield generator for the second Death Star located? Alright, so we have our 3 questions. Let's go to design view, see how this looks. Okay, so we have our 3 questions here. These lines are part of the question div. Right? If we look at the CSS, let's look at the question CSS here. The way I did that line was just border bottom. Right? 1 pixel. If I change it to, let's say, 3 pixels, we'll see how that changes our default page. Right? You see now the line's a little thicker. Right? That's how I got that line there. Okay, so then now we're ready to put our radio buttons. So what we can do here is press enter. So that'll do a line break. And then we'll do 1 radio button. Press enter again. Do another radio button. And then another one. And then we need the label also for the correct answer. Right, so what we can do is we can go here, press enter twice, and then add a label. Now let's do the same thing for question 2. Let's get a radio button, throw it there. Get another one, put it here. Oh, did I put too many spaces? Yeah, sorry about that. and then one more radio button. And you can kind of see the pattern. And then the other label, that'll be for the correct answer or the wrong, or if it's wrong. And then finally here, another radio button. Okay. Start running out of room, you can close out that. And then the last label. Okay, so now let's put the text in the radio button. So I'm gonna go to radio button 1, go to text property. The first option will be Luke. The next option, Anakin. The next one is Tom. Okay. And then here we'll have 400 years for the text. Here we'll have 500 years. And then here we'll have 900 years. And then here we'll have indoor. Here we'll have Bespin. And the last one, Yevon. Okay, so now that we've put the text, now we need to name the controls. That way we can use them in our programming. What I would recommend is just using the answer as the name, right? So, or as the ID, sorry. Okay, so click on the first one. Scroll on top. It says here radio button 1. Let's just change that to Luke. The next one, let's change that to Anakin. And this one, Tom. I can also do this. Here we'll do 400. Here 500. Here we'll do 900. Okay, and then on this one, radio button 7, let's do indoor. Here we'll do Bespin. And then here we'll do Yevon. And then try to be consistent with your labeling. I think I capitalized some and some I didn't. So I'm going to just lowercase everything. Well, I think they're all capital. Well, yeah, we'll just do a lowercase. Okay, so everything else should be lowercase now. Alright, so the labels, this is where the answers will go. So here for label 2, let's do LBL answer 1. Here we'll do LBL answer 2. And then here we'll do LBL answer 3. Okay, now we don't want it to say the word label when we run it. So what I would recommend is, rather than having it say label, you can delete it, but we need to put a non-breaking space, so that way there'll still be the same amount of space that the text would have taken up if it had been there. We can simulate that by doing ampersand non-breaking space, so it's NBSP semicolon. So there's still something there, but the user won't see it. Okay, and then let's do the same thing here. Ampersand non-breaking space NBSP semicolon, and then we'll do the same thing here. Ampersand NBSP semicolon. Right. Okay, so let's debug this real quick, see how it looks. Okay, so you see there's still a space here, right? So the answer will show up there. Without the non-breaking space, then this div, the size would change. When the answer pops up, then it would readjust the size. It would look weird. It looked like it would be moving. So click the radio buttons, and you see we have a problem, right? When we select the answer choices, you can select multiple answers, right? But it's a radio button, you only get one answer. So how do we fix that? Okay, so let me show you. Okay, so let's debug. Stop debugging. Put my properties here. Close this out. Okay, so these radio buttons here, this one, and this one, they need to belong in the same group name in order for them to work as radio buttons should work. Yeah, so the buttons are supposed to be mutually exclusive, right? So that means that we choose one and the other one unchooses, or we choose this one, the other one becomes unchecked, and so on, right? So to do that, they need to be part of the same group name. So select the first radio button in the group, hold down the control key, select the next one, and then the third one. Okay, so once all three are selected, then we can go to the group name here, and we can assign a group name to all three at once. So we'll call it something like question 1. Okay, now let's do the same thing for these three choices. Hold down the control key and then select all three, and then do question 2. Now select the next one, hold down the control key, and then do question 3. Okay, now let's run it, make sure we fixed it. There you go. Now that they're each a set in a set, now they work as they're supposed to. Let's see if our redirecting is working. So we're on chapter 1. Let's go to chapter 2. Okay, you see here we have chapter 2. Go to chapter 3. Chapter 3 is working as well. Go back to chapter 1, and that's working. Okay. So then now we should be ready to program the answers in Visual Basic. Okay, so I think I'm done with the properties. I'm going to put them back where they belong. I'm going to go here, and then this little symbol that pops up, I'm going to choose to pin it there. Close this. Okay, well, I guess we're not done. We can't do the VB yet. We still need the footer. Okay, so let's go back to source. And let's see. After the question, we'll need a footer. Okay. Now in our footer, we're going to have a label and a button. That label will generate the results of our test. And you can actually do this not in design mode. You can actually do it here. Just drag that there. Let's see. You put a label here. And then we can put a button. Right? You don't always have to use the properties, and you don't always have to use the design mode. The ID is the same thing as, when we name the control. So here we'll name this LBL. LBL, I guess, result, right? Because that's where the grade will pop up here. And then the button here would be BTN grade test. Oops. Okay. And then here we have the text for the button. So let's put something like grade this test. Right, that's the same thing as going through the text property here. The other thing we might want is a line break. So we can put it here on the side. So BR break. And then the label text here, we can put again a non-breaking space. I think we can just put it here. Non-breaking space. Okay. So now we can go to design mode, and we should have some buttons. There you go. And then here, let's apply our CSS class. We have one for button. There you go. Now the button's a little bit bigger, more pronounced. Okay, so now we should be ready to do the VB code. So let's work on that. Let's go ahead and generate an event handler. Just double click on the button. Okay, so now to do the code, the first thing we're going to need is a variable for the score, or for the grade. So we're going to do dim int score as integer, and we'll initialize it to 0. Okay, so now we need to have if else clauses to check the answers on our tests, right? So for the first question, the correct answer, if we look at the design view. The first answer, what is Darth Vader's real name? It's going to be Anakin. Right, so what we're going to do is if Anakin dot checked is true, then we're going to display something in the label for the answer. So in the label we'll do something like for LBL answer 1 dot text, we will set it to correct. And if they got the answer correct because they checked the right answer, then they deserve a point. So then we'll increment score into plus equals 1. If they didn't answer the right question, right? If they didn't make the right selection, they checked anything else other than Anakin, else then LBL answer dot text is incorrect. And then you can give them the answer. Answer Anakin. And then also what we can do is we can color the text through the code. Right, so what we can do is here, if they get it correct, we want it to be green. So it's going to be LBL answer 1 and then dot for color and then we'll set it to drawing dot color dot green. Okay. If they got the answer wrong, then we'll set the color to red. Okay. So let's test this out, see if it's working. Okay. So I'm going to make the wrong choice. I'm going to grade the test, and we have the incorrect answer. I'm going to put the correct answer now, and now it's correct. So then you just do the same thing for the rest of them. And then we need to also display the score on the bottom here. Okay, so let's get the rest done. So let me give you the answers for those. Hold on. Okay, so here's what we did for question 1. Now I put comments using the single quote. Then the answer for question 2 was 900. So if 900's checked for Yoda's age, then that's correct. Else, something else. Oh, actually here, what I did was I concatenated the text from the check button. Right, so we can do that here as well if you want. It doesn't really matter. So we can do this plus Anakin, which is the radio button, dot text. Right, and that'll give us whatever text is there, so you don't have to retype it. Or if you decide to change the text in the check button, or in the radio button, sorry, then that text will show up here, and it'll concatenate to the answer text. Okay, and then here's the answer for question 3. All right, so if they select indoor, so we look at the question real quick. So they make this choice, then it's correct. Color green, increment the score. Otherwise, tell them it's incorrect, don't give them a point, and make it red. Okay, so then the last thing is to display the score. Right, so we created a label for that. We called it LBL result dot text, and we'll do something like your score is, and then we will concatenate int score, and then we'll do something like /3, like this. So then that should show, if they got 2 questions right, then that would show 2 out of 3. Or if they got all 3 right, then 3 out of 3. Or if the score never changed, you got them all wrong, then it should be 0 out of 3. Yeah, so then 0, 1, 2, 3. So let's run it, see what happens. Oh, I was in debug mode, sorry. So then go ahead and run that. Okay. So then let's choose all the correct answers. So the correct answer is Anakin for 1, 900 for this one, and indoor for that one. So then great test. Oh, what happened here? String input is incorrect format. Let's see what we did wrong. Oh, you forgot to, or I forgot to convert this to a string. Okay, not a problem. I'm going to close that out. Int score is an integer, but yet we're trying to paste it or concatenate it to a string. So then do to string. Okay, now try it. Okay, so then the answer is Anakin 900 indoor. Great. There you go. So then now we have the score. We have them all correct. Let's say I get them all wrong. Graded 0 out of 3. They're all wrong, but it shows you the correct answer now. Okay, so then in part 2, since this video has gone on for a little longer than I expected, I'll go ahead and show you how to finish chapter 2, where we'll use the check boxes. But it's a very similar process as the radio button, so it shouldn't be too bad. But I'll still show you anyway. Okay, well, thank you for watching. I hope this video was informative.